Hello, everybody. I don't know if you've noticed, just to clarify, I'm not, in fact, Paul. I'm Anna. And it's Paul Morgan that's going to be coming up and talking later, not Paul Young. I wanted to say how wonderful it is to be here today. This is lynda.com's first Talent Connect. I hope it will be one of many, many more. And I think I speak for all of lynda.com when I say how exciting it is to actually be a part of the new LinkedIn family. So I wanted to start today by interrogating this word learning. What does learning actually mean? What does learning mean to you? And I'm not sure if anyone, I'm hoping many of you were in Deborah's afternoon session yesterday on the meaning of learning and play. And I just wanted to put it out there to you in the spirit of having a go about what learning actually means. So if some people could shout out to me what learning means to them, even if it's one word. Come on, anyone? Growth? Anyone else? Louder, guys, come on. Development? Anyone else? Talent? Okay. Progression. All right, these are good words. I want to tell you a story, and it starts with me sitting down with a learning and development team from one of the world's largest corporations, a team that is known for developing some cutting-edge learning interventions for their people. And I asked that classic question that I know we've heard many a time yesterday, which is, what does good look like? What is a successful learning intervention for your organization? And their response actually astounded me. And they said, Anna, a good learning intervention is when my team enters a situation, we enhance performance, they exit the situation, and nobody, not the subjects, and not my team, even mentions the word learning. And I was really shocked. And I was like, OK, we do not mention the word learning. He said, Anna, my team are ninjas. And I thought to myself, well, that's quite cool, actually, because I've always wanted to meet a ninja, firstly. Secondly, the thing that came to mind for me is that learning clearly has an identity crisis within organizations. Why might that be? Why does this crisis exist? Why is the term learning problematic to us? My personal view on this is it falls back to preconceived notions of what learning actually is. So when we think of learning, we often fall back into teacher and classroom scenario. We fall back into curriculum. We fall back into course. We fall back to a prescribed mode of learning things that we were forced to learn probably at school. For me, the nightmares of algebra come to mind. I think when we truly think of learning and how successful learning can actually be, we have to revisit probably how we felt about learning when we were very young. Learning is intuitive, it's inquisitive. It's about being inspired by the world around you. It's discovering something. And that's never prescribed. And more than anything else, it starts and ends with people. So I know there's people here from many different backgrounds today, whether it be talent acquisition or recruitment or brand management. But essentially, all of us are interested in what it means to actually inspire people. With that in mind, I wanted to introduce today's session with posing to you that learning is actually part of a much bigger ecosystem, especially within an organization. If it's about people, it develops into dependencies. An ecosystem that involves talent acquisition, talent development, human resources, to name but a few. So who are Lynda.com? Well, I'm sure you've heard the vision statement for LinkedIn, creating economic opportunity for every member of the global workforce. What I want to do today is to make you think about what could happen if that vision was enhanced through learning. What could that truly mean? And when I look at this type of statement and I look at what it means to actually connect people to opportunity, I think that's just one side of the coin, actually. What I think is going to be really important, and what we'll learn later today from Telefónica, is that the other side of the coin is about connecting enterprises to opportunity. And we're going to explore how we can do that through learning and through developing people. So I'm sure you've all seen the economic graph before. What I wanted to do for you is to sort of interpret it from my point of view, from a learning perspective, having been in learning for a number of years. To date, in my life, these 6 dimensions have largely been isolated. They've largely existed in a compartmentalized way. The university I went to, my university career, didn't necessarily inform the type of job I got, or indeed the type of skills that I developed as a result. What I'm interested in is the connections between these dimensions. What I'm interested in is if you can identify what the interconnections are. Is it possible to be able to lift the veil on what it truly means to develop talent? Is it possible to develop talent that's more accurate, that's more relevant, that's actually more motivated to succeed? So when you look at human capital trends, I just want to draw your attention to the first one on that slide. The biggest issue at the moment in global talent development is around the extent to which we're engaging our workforces, what we get back from our people as a result, the extent to which we're retaining people, and the effect that's going to have on our culture. Is our culture going to transform what we're trying to achieve here? And I think learning is playing a pivotal role in developing these trends. So some really quick facts about Lynda.com, and I'm not going to read all of these off. There's a couple of things that I really want to draw your attention to. The first thing is that we have 4 million members, a large proportion of which are actually consumers. So we have both consumers and businesses that form part of our model. Why is that significant? It's significant because we have engaged individuals to pay out of their own pocket for Lynda.com. We've created an incredibly sticky platform. And I say to any organization, the true test of any tool is the extent to which your own people would pay for it as consumers, because consumers tend to be ahead of the game. They tend to be ahead of organizations. So when we look at engagement, first and foremost, we look at our members and we look at our individual members. We have individuals that are driving this from the grassroots up. The second thing that I wanted to draw your attention to is the bridge that Lynda.com has between corporations and the education field. What we're doing, and I hope what we hope to succeed in, is creating a consistency in terms of training and in terms of language between corporations and education. So people coming out of university are better equipped to enter the workplace. They're ahead of the curve when they need to develop those skills that are critical for actually acting on the job. So what makes Lynda.com? Again, this is a personal perspective of what makes Lynda.com to me. And the most important thing is the first element, which is engagement. Now, I think we should question what engagement actually means. I have a love-hate relationship with the word engagement. I sit in front of many companies, and they will tell me engagement is all about the extent to which my people are looking at your system, looking at your videos, how long they spend on the system. That's really important, and I would never, ever not say that was important. However, that's the tip of the iceberg. That's the bit that we can see, And that's the bit that's easy to measure. And a lot of people forget what lies beneath the water. And for me, what lies beneath the water is this sense that if you're engaging your workforce, you're actually investing in them as people. So when we look at organizational engagement surveys, we're looking for two things. My manager cares about my development, and I feel invested in as an individual. If we can increase that, we can directly relate it back to the impact learning and development can have on your organization. So if we make people feel more invested in, if we make people feel that we're giving them a tool to empower them, to make themselves better at what they do, what we notice is we start to notice shifts in organizational culture. We start to make people feel like we're actually giving them performance-enhancing tools. And finally, if we can do that, if we can make people more proactive and autonomous and have more ownership about learning, what will they give back to your organization as a result? To what extent are you more likely to be able to retain your very best talent? The second thing I wanted to talk about very quickly is quality. Now, many people think LinkedIn have bought a training company. LinkedIn have bought a learning company. I would agree with those statements, but I also think, in many respects, LinkedIn also bought a professional production company. We have huge studios in California and in Austria. What we do on a day-to-day basis is we create content. We're creating 5 hours of new content per working day on average. We use subject matter experts, and we also look very much at things like instructional quality and integrity. What does that mean for an organization? Well, it usually means, take Office 365 as an example, that we can produce videos about Office 365 before that product change actually came to market. What that means is people can learn about the change. It's less likely to disrupt organizations as a result, and it's less likely to disrupt individual productivity. Finally, I want to talk about access. Mobile access may seem a very obvious point, but I think what that represents is the way learning is changing. It's changing from courses to resources. It's changing from something that you do in a classroom to actually being able to give you digital resources at point of need. It's on demand. If you look at any learning model, the largest proportion, about 70% of any learning takes place on the job. Why are we not giving people the tools to support as they learn on the job? That's when they need them most. That's when it will enhance their performance most. We ran a study recently across 200 heads and directors of L&D and HR across Europe within large enterprises. And we asked those individuals, to what extent are your employees actually in charge of your career and skills development? Those that use lynda.com within Europe were 33% above average in that response. So what this means is we're actually empowering individuals to make the difference within their organization. So I'd like to introduce the lynda.com and Telefónica partnership. It's one of our closest partnerships, and it's been incredibly important for us moving forward. So number one, I think most importantly, what I've witnessed with Telefónica is the extent to which they're inspiring their people. They're moving from a rigid, narrow definition of what learning means towards a much wider, all-encompassing 360 people agenda. And of course, as soon as you talk about people, it involves a whole spectrum of potential departments. Another thing about inspiring people, which is very, very interesting, is this definition, this line that exists between personal and professional development. To date, these things tend to remain separate for us. So when I talk about my personal development, me thinking potentially about getting a job in 3 years' time that may be different from the job I've got now. Professional development, can I do that project management video to make sure that I effectively manage change better? Personal, I'd really like to develop that hobby of mine. This line between personal and professional development is slowly coming down. And in order for organizations to truly invest in people, they have to support the whole person, not just the person that's coming into the office. Telefónica's culture is becoming far more digital. Their mandate is to be more digital. And in doing so, they want to make people more proactive around the resources they're giving them. They want to make them more autonomous. And finally, I want to talk very briefly about what that actually means for a brand. I think when you develop people, it's not merely thinking about the point that you're acquiring talent, but it's actually thinking about employees throughout the entire life cycle of their employment. Not only does that enhance performance, but also you're creating brand ambassadors as a result, both inside of your company and also when they move on from your company as well. So with that, I would like to introduce Paul Morgan, who's the head of learning and development at Telefónica.
Thank you, Anna. Good afternoon, everyone. Shall I try that again? Good afternoon. Now, I'll start my presentation. I've never been in this slightly unusual predicament. I've done many presentations in my life. I've had many death slots. I've had the lunch slot. I've had the morning slot. I've now got the space slot. So, hopefully, I will be able to engage you enough to keep your attention before the space slot, and hopefully, in the next 10, 15 minutes, make it clear to you why everyone in this room should take one thing away from the presentation that I'm going to give you. So, before I start, I always like to understand the people in the room. Always good to understand an audience, however spread out you are. So, from an L&D perspective, can you stand up if in your company you don't have an L&D department, it's a multifunctional job? Oh, there we go. Right. Sorry, I should have given a clue. This is the movement part of the day. Right. So, stand up if you've got between 0 and 10 people in your L&D department. And stand up if you've got between 10 and 20 people. And those that are really lucky, who's got over 30 people? Right. So, the good news is I have everything for everyone in the room, but I think it's quite an important point because I know that the audience here is fairly varied. So my name is Paul Morgan, and I'm the head of L&D for Telefónica, as some of you know is also called O2. Two things I want to say is, firstly, O2 is more than shops, mobile phone. It's all about digital. We have a business area, we have a retail area, we have a digital function. We are 7,500 people. When I tell that, people are kind of, I didn't realize you had that many people in your shops. But we don't. They're all over the country. So hopefully in the next 10 minutes, I'll hopefully create some linkages between how Linda is helping us engage our teams, how it's making them more productive, and then in terms of how it's helping with retention. So let me start. So everyone asks me, what is your role in L&D? So I just want to outline very quickly what it is. We're fairly unique in the L&D market. We don't have to deal with IT on a daily basis because all of our systems are actually out of all the VPNs. So basically, we don't have the integration with IT or systems. But basically, also more importantly, you don't have to log into your system to get access to our learning. So you can actually access it anywhere you want. Now, like any traditional L&D department, we do have a role to play in design, build, and deliver. Now, hopefully, the more and more my presentation goes on, you'll understand that the less and less we're doing, specifically around creation and more about curation. So, as I said, my team supports 7,500 employees, plus all the partners we have. Tesco Mobile, Capita in call centers, etc. So probably in excess of 10,000 people. And this gives you some indication of the variety and the spectrum that we have to work in. The only area that myself and my team are not responsible for is leadership and talent. However, leadership and talent is also supported by Linda. So we have to support anyone that is running up an engineer mast, to someone that's in finance and procurement, someone that's in a call center, someone that's in retail, or someone that's selling a high-end business solution. It's a very varied role. And what I hopefully will explain is when I joined the company 2 years ago, right, there's an awful lot of stuff, an awful lot of requests you get from 7,500 employees around L&D. So, our key role is not ROI, it's not cost per head count, because I'm not a believer in ROI, right? It is about, we are here to solve business problems. My background is I spent most of my part of my years in training, but for commercial training organizations and functions to support partners. So I was at Microsoft for 10 years, making partners more successful, more profitable through education, training, and learning. So our role as a team is to solve business problems. When I tell people this, they kind of look at me a bit strange. They're like, well, what about hierarchy? What about feedback? I don't care. We are here to solve the business problems that each of those areas have, right? However wide and varied they are within the year that we're set. So let me move on. I like this quote. I'm not sure how many of you have seen this quote before, but basically what this says, if you think you're good at what you do, right, you'll never improve. So for me, this is a really good statement that says we need to continue to develop our workforce, whoever you are, whatever you do, whatever age you are, wherever you are in your career, we need to support you in one shape or another. This is just a very quick overview in terms of what our strategy is from a company point of view, what the key elements of our plan is, and in terms of what our key enablers are and underpins, okay? So you can see in there that culture, driving platform, right, and actually building a team of stakeholders and partners is really, really key to what we do, supported by the likes of, for example, business intelligence and driving a learning culture. And hopefully through the presentation, I'll explain what the learning culture really means to Telefónica at O2. So what I thought would be useful if I explained to you the 18-month journey that ourselves and Linda have been on. So we first met, had a meeting about 18 months ago. They told us what they could do for us. We weren't really sure how we were going to use them, but we knew it was a really good resource. So what I thought I'd do is state the issues that we faced as a company. Now, however big your L&D departments are, I'm pretty sure that these situations will be fairly common, right? You'll have people in your organization that want help on Excel or Word, or VBA, or macros, or management, or resilience, or things about themselves. I need help on. So historically, we created a lot of stuff, because that's what L&D departments historically do. They create stuff because that's how they actually get measured. But what we realized that the amount of stuff that we were creating, we couldn't keep up with it, let alone measure it. So when we started, we were doing some fantastic work in certain areas, but fundamentally we had to stop creating stuff because when I joined, my team within 6 months was reduced by 40%. So we only actually service 40% of the organization. We now have 40% less people, and we now have to service 95% of the organization. So you have to make some very quick decisions. So in the traditional sense, we had to think very differently about how do we support our people, and how do we start adding value to the business where it matters, and how do we partner with organizations that can help us solve, support all of the requests that are coming, right, from our business. About leadership, about personal productivity, about confidence, about presentation skills, you name it, we had to sort it. But what we did know is that when you're at home and your washing machine breaks, the first thing you do is go to YouTube, right? So we're brilliant at home, we get to work, and I'm not sure what happens, but as soon as we walk through the door, we go, I really don't know where to go, or I really don't know what to search. So what we realized was video is a very useful medium, and people are very used to going on YouTube and solving any problem or understanding what's happening. What we also knew is that everyone likes to customize everything that they learn on. Everyone understands the reality of playlists. We have them in Spotify, we have them in iTunes, we have them in BT TV. We all want to customize, record, and do things that's for us. So we knew that customization for individuals was really important, but we also knew that actually finding information was really important. So if you start to bring those things together, you then have to realize, who do we then go and work with to start to curate content, not create content? So, as Anna's already said, there are thousands and thousands and thousands of video in Lynda, high quality videos where it's split down by chapter. Everyone has a synopsis, right? You can watch a video, you can watch a course, you can add it to your playlist, and you can customize it to you, right? So everything that you do in your personal life, if you then replicate it in your professional life, hopefully, that should be a lot easier. So what we realized is that we were using many different companies. We were probably using about 12 companies, and we realized that actually the cost of doing this was ridiculous, and we had to focus on one company and do one company and one source really well. So back to what we were doing, and back to what Anna said, we realized fairly early on that the barrier or the difference between personal development and professional development is nearly no longer there. May sound a little bit extreme. However, is confidence a personal or professional development? Is presentation skills? Is resilience? Is understanding how to ask a question? Is writing 101? Right? These are all things that fundamentally in different times of your career, or what you do, you have to be good at. So we realized what we should do, let's forget only dealing with professional, and let's have a platform that will help someone from a personal point of view. And we don't care what it is, because fundamentally we now have to support the variety of the people we have from everything that they do, from the minute they walk into the door, the moment they go to bed and get up. We have to support the whole person. So this is Asi Dagani, who was at the forefront of actually, in my team, of actually bringing Lynda. And you can see that, he started and we started to think about, we have to think about the whole person and stop delineating between professional and personal. From a cultural point of view, we realized that in the world of content, or L&D, you can't keep on pushing content, right? Because there's so much of it that actually everyone gets bored. It's a bit like survey mania. Any of you that work in companies probably get 2 surveys a week, and if you're anything like me, you press delete, right? So we've got to start really having the people take control of their own development, but they've got to be incentivized to do it, and it's got to be good for them, and it's got to feel good for them. And then, thirdly, this is an interesting quote. So within probably 16 months, we actually did a video for Lynda, and this came out from this lady, which for me was a really interesting point. She learned more using Lynda than 3 years at university, right? That proves, right, it has everything and anything on it to support the person that she wanted to be, and for example, university didn't have it. So this is what you can do to engage your people, to inspire your people, to care about your people, to get them to really understand it is about the whole person. Another example is this one, that when you start to talk about connecting a brand and connecting the individual to the brand and making a difference for the individual, right? This is for them. This is for making people better at what they do, right? And actually, around connecting the brand and making it real, we do care about you as a person. Right? It's used a lot in companies. We care about you, we want to support you, etc. But actually what we proved, because what you'll see is we didn't actually force any of this on anybody. We said we won't report. You can do what you want, when you want, in whatever time. You can do it at home, you can do it at work, you can do it at lunch, don't care. You can do it on any device, your mobile, your laptop, your tablet. And what you start to see is that it starts to drive a different culture. and people realize that actually they're in control of their development. There's stuff that they have to do. Learning and training is a dirty word. In our business, when you join, you have to do probably 4.5 hours of compliance training down to regulation, okay? But what we realize is bringing things like Linda and actually removing the word training or learning, this is about their development. This is about making them better people. So, this is where we are today. When we launched, we decided that we wouldn't call it professional development. We launched it within the 70-20-10 framework and said, directorate, business unit by business unit, meet your new colleague. Your colleague is now called Linda, and we want you to learn from your new colleague, right? And we want you to do whatever you want to do, whether you want to do camera work, whether you want to do programming if you're in retail. We don't care what you want to do. This is for you and for you only. Now, we had a lot of cynical people that didn't actually believe us, but actually, hopefully you can see that out of 7,500 people that had to individually register, over 5,000 people have registered, and over 55% of those people are using it on a fairly regular basis, right? And that people are using it for videos, for courses. And what we've also done is underpinned all of our leadership capability from it. We've moved some of our providers out of our building and actually brought Linda in. So it supports business, it supports retail, it supports leadership, it supports resilience, it supports a whole number of things, and it also supports personal, right? So you get loads of benefits from it, and people love engaging video. They can do it when they want, how they want, wherever they want. We don't care. So, and you can see, which is interesting, that out of all of those videos, the average viewing time is 7 minutes. Because the fear is that Fred's going to spend all of their time now doing Linda, and they're not going to do any work. Well, realistically, that's never going to happen, right? But actually, if you give them an environment, they can look on their mobile phone, on their tablet when they want. They will do it when it's most appropriate to them. So back to the no courses and resources. Now we start to use it to start embedding other things. So hopefully, you can see in an organization of the scale and diversity of ours, right, it is as relevant to us as it is to everyone in this room, okay? Because what it is not is expensive. And let me just tell you something else. By adopting Linda, we saved £150,000 through project management and basic training alone, right? So if you think this is an incremental cost, this will save you more money than you realize, because you can start concentrating on adding value, solving actual business problems that make a real difference, and you can start to measure the real impact. Now, what does the future hold? We haven't yet integrated Linda into our entire systems, and we will be doing that within the next 4 weeks. So all 7,500 people will have automatic access to Linda, and that's really important for us, okay? We're a company that's grown over the years, and in terms of our single sign-on is what I would call a dream, but we don't have a dream, but we are integrating it. Now, if you didn't think what I've told you is good enough, there's a whole load of other things that are coming with Linda, which are really exciting for us, which are underpinning what we do. To tell you how much commitment we've gone, even though some of you will know we're going through a possible purchase by Hutchison, we have signed a 3-year deal with Linda because it is so fundamental to everything we do, because it allows scale and it allows us to do the things we want to do. So, just some new things that are coming, okay? There's a developer area in there that allows people in your business that code to actually physically code within Linda itself, right? To learn about coding and then actually use that environment to start coding and actually see whether it works. There's a new feature that within it, you're now able to write notes on courses and videos. So no longer do you have to watch it. You can actually make notes. You can actually tag. You can go back to them and actually work out, where was I, because I can't remember, within your playlist that you create, and you can basically do your development, your team's development over time, as well as creating playlists with Linda for all of your teams. And then thirdly, you know, everything that's, we started working with Linda when they weren't purchased by LinkedIn. Right? We work with LinkedIn already for a resourcing point of view. But the future, hopefully, as you picked up with all the other sessions you've been, the future is incredibly exciting with an integration between Lynda and LinkedIn. So, with that, I will invite Anna back on stage and take some questions. Thank you. So, there are some mics, left and right, or you can shout. So, does anyone have any questions, queries, thoughts, as we have precisely 9 minutes and 22 seconds?
Gentleman there with his hand up. There. Do you mind coming to the mic very quickly? Thank you.
I was just thinking that we use our platform, our e-learning platform, to share a lot of content that is very specific to our company, and how you're managing that with Lynda, which is more, like general.
It's a great point. My belief, 80% of what you get is the same everywhere. You can put a flavor on anything. So the discussion internally is, you can add at the beginning or the end of Lynda to give it the particular message that you want, right? My advice to anyone doing this is don't create the video itself when it's already there. So what we have done in certain scenarios is that for leadership capability, we've just taken all of Lynda's content. And in certain other areas, we've actually used it as, you do this exercise, you do this training, and then you can do something else. So we've actually used it in kind of many different ways. But my honest advice is, you will get, right, it's Americans talking to you, that's fine, they still speak English, right? Right, it's not specific enough, yes it is. Right, how many ways do you want to learn how to do leadership? It'll get people on the journey. If there are cultural things you want to do, you can do them and spend your time doing those. But I would urge, it does take a while to realize that actually this is a great resource and people will love it. Right? You'll have more naysayers at the start, but when you start to prove value in terms of removing cost out of your business and driving efficiency, it will really help. Hopefully that answers your question.
I think my response to that would be as well, is the level of tailoring that you can actually go into at lynda.com. You're not merely able to create playlists of, say, courses, but you're able to tailor at a micro level as well, down to 2-minute videos at a time. So there's many different ingredients that can go into achieving a certain learning outcome. The options open to you are, quite frankly, endless. And we support you to pick the very best options in doing that and tailoring, truly tailoring, both on the individual level and maybe at departmental or business unit level as well.
And that's a really interesting point. So why are Lynda different to anyone else you work with? Anyone else you work with, you'll buy a resource set. Crack on, have some fun with it. With Lynda, you'll work in partnership to create specific playlists for your organization that are relevant. Basically, they have a team that will help you do it. So as an example, next week we'll be launching a whole load of playlists for 63 common skills that we believe are in our business. We couldn't have done that for ourselves. We work with Lynda to then actually create those for us and actually work in partnership, and that is the big difference. It's a partnership versus a customer-supplier relationship. You can queue, it's fine. We won't queue for the tube this
It's been a
morning.
while since you've had a queue, Paul.
Wow, I have a size problem. Okay, that's much better. So my question is, what was your marketing strategy towards employees to be engaged with the tool? Because I think about the tool and I say, okay, it's great. But probably if I try to advertise that across my employees, they will say, yes, great, another online tool that they are giving to us, for learning. So did you have a...
Yeah, so it's a fair point, right? We're a digital company, we've got more tools and more apps than we can shake a big stick at. So one thing we decided to do is basically, as I said before, say this is for your personal development and this is your new colleague. You can decide to do it or you can not decide to do it. Choice is yours. So all those figures I showed you were by not pushing it at all or not measuring it. You need a few people to start a groundswell So when we started, we actually created a small group of people that just to test it. But trust me, it moves. When people realize this is for them, this isn't just another tool, by the way, right? This is actually for the person to make them the best person that they can be. And actually, when people believe it, and your colleagues will talk, and the managers talk, and the managers create playlists, and the directors play, and everyone talks about it, do you know what? Everyone will go, why am I not on it? So at the very start small and actually get some feedback, but you'll be amazed. It is another tool, but there isn't another tool like this anywhere that can customize it for you and actually make it for you. And actually, one of the biggest pieces of feedback we had was a lot of people don't want to tell their manager what they're crap at. Right, let's be clear. I don't want to either. However, I know what I'm not very good at, and I know what I'll actually want to develop. So I can actually determine that for myself, and I don't have to share it with anybody. So it's a slow process, but you'll be amazed with the cost, the scale, and actually how it will support and change the culture in your business. Does that answer your question?
Yes and no, because I already thought about, okay, I can set up a pilot test group. But the problem with the size is that the impact of each individual is higher. So if I have like 5 people testing the tool and 1 or 2 of them don't think that the content is relevant, then, you know.
Really interesting point. So, really good point, and something I forgot. When we did the announcement, we went to every single directorate's team meeting, and we announced Linda, right? And we walked into finance, right? Love our finance colleagues, right? But nothing's relevant for them, right? So basically what we ended up doing was asking them questions. What do you want to learn? And do it. Type it in. There you are. Is that relevant for you? Yeah. Anything else? And have that two-way kind of conversation. Everyone thinks that they're special, and everyone thinks they need something customized. They don't, right? They may need some specific training on specific X, but actually use it. You know, feel free. If any of you want me to share what we did, it's paul.morgan@telefonica.com, or you can look at me on LinkedIn. Happy to share how we did it, what we did, and actually some of the results. Because I understand this is not easy, and actually you need a belief in the company that you can actually start to test and trial.
One thing that I would just add to that quickly is that it's really interesting when you actually start perceiving your employees as potential consumers as well. Because what you actually start to realize is what you think they need and what they actually want might be entirely different. And you know what? Have you even asked yourself that question yet? Because that's when you truly start to engage people, when they actually want to do it and they want to learn, and it fulfills something personal for them. We had one more question, another lady with her hand up.
Hello. I think my question can be a compliment for the other one. I agree with you when you say that each one of us think that has specific needs or very customized needs. But the truth is that I also believe that we have different learning styles. And there's lots of research on that. So how do we address, and I'm a big fan of online learning, okay, but how do we address those different learning styles? Because some of us are more conceptual, others are more doing things, others are more related with talking with other people and understanding best-in-class ideas. You know, how do we address that?
That's a good point. So I'm going to be slightly radical. Is there anyone in here that doesn't use YouTube? That's my point. So as long as you use it with something else, you're fine. The argument would be, I don't get video, I'm more a visual person, or, you know, I want face-to-face. Well, actually, you know, we all use different things. I wouldn't have this as the one and only thing you do, because that would be a bit silly, right? But actually, as long as you mix it up, everyone in here uses YouTube, right? And YouTube is your biggest friend.
Although, I'm sorry, you're right. Although in YouTube, I think you are at a high-level content, you know, not very in-depth, as I believe it's the meaning when you're learning with Linda courses that I don't know by now, okay? But YouTube, I think sometimes we don't even see the video up to the end. You just you take just a glimpse of the video and you go on, you know? And that's not learning. That's just challenging your way of thinking on things.
We all learn in different ways.
Okay.
If you have a particular problem and you want to go to a chapter and you want to look at it for 2 seconds to learn something, then in my view, in my humble opinion, you're learning. I think learning is an evolving process. We all learn every day, right? And I think this is why if you put more barriers in it and don't try it, there will be some people that maybe not like it, right, that want other things, but they're going to be the minority and not the majority, would be in my experience.
Okay, thank you.
Sorry, guys, we're out of time. If you want to learn more, please add me on LinkedIn. We've got a presence at the back where you can actually experience lynda.com. It's next to the Sky Gym. And I also wanted to mention to you as well, there are a number of courses that we've recently released specifically on using LinkedIn tools and specifically for recruiters, if that's of interest to you. Thank you very, very much for coming.
Thank you for your
and you've
time.
been a great audience.